Here is the completed code for the Sushi web bot. I'll start at the top and go through all of the code and just describe what's going on inside of it. So up top, obviously, is just the everything we had to import in order to make the code run and eventually play the game. Just going down from there, we have our X pad and our Y pad, which these pretty much highlight what area of the entire computer screen, where all of our clicks and pretty much like everything that's going on in the code, instead of operating on the entire computer screen, it's just going to be operating in one square, which is right around where the game is. And our screen grab is up next. This creates the box that we're looking for, and it goes off of X pad and Y pad, and each of these numbers right here, the 671 and 753, because the X pad and Y pad start up in this corner, the 671 is added to the X axis, which is how long the box is, and the 753 is how far down it goes from there. If you just run this function, it's just going to take a screenshot of the area, which is how we started off writing the code, because we had to get all the coordinates that were located inside of this by using paint. Right here, this helps. This works alongside with screen grab. This also helps and gets the screenshot taken of the square that we created with X pad and Y pad and the 671 753 coordinates. So going down from here, we have all of our get seat functions. They're all identical except for the coordinates, obviously. Pretty much what these do is go through, like, they use the X pad and add the coordinates. So for this one, box 1, it adds on 21 for the X pad and 32 for the Y pad, and that is the starting coordinates for the box that we're creating around each of the seats, which is eventually going to help us figure out if there's any food, or not food, if there's any people sitting at the seats, which will then help our final product figure out what kind of sushi they want and deliver it to them. I'm just going through all of them. They're all pretty much the same, except for the coordinates are different, obviously. Get all seats calls to get all 6 seats to check them all at once. So right in here, what do we got here? This is just, I wrote down the recipes in here so that it was easier for later on in the code. Just kind of help myself out a little bit, make it easier. Down here in class chord, this is one of the most important parts of this program. What these do is, like, so the F's, F-Rice, F-Nori, and F-Row, that is where, you can't really see it right now on the game screen, but this is where the bot will click to actually get the food, put it on the sushi mat, and make the sushi. To get to the phone, this is like these are the coordinates to click on the phone, which is going to be down here, and that lets you access your toppings, which is another really important part. Those are all these right here, and the exit phone obviously exits out of the phone and lets the bot keep playing. Down here, so once you're in the phone, to get to rice, it's a separate menu from toppings. So this is the coordinates to click on that, and then to buy rice, once you get into there, this is another area that the bot will have to click. Same with free delivery, just another thing that is going to get clicked after you select what food or rice you want. Fold mat, that is going to click the mat where all the food is to fold it into the sushi, and then after that it goes onto the conveyor belt and gets brought to the people. So we have seat 1 bubble through seat 6 bubble. Again, just coordinates. These are going to be, these are for the bot to click in order to clear the plates. That's about that for the class, or class chord. Buy food. This is actually like where, so above I showed you the coordinates, and this is actually where the program is going to go in and purchase the food within. So if we start at the top here, we can look. The mouse position is going to start off at the coordinates for the phone, and it's going to left click that. After it left clicks, it's going to, so this is for rice, to purchase rice. After it gets into the phone, it's going to click onto the rice menu, and then after that, it's going to take a screen grab, print test, and then this is where everything else really happens. This tests to see if you can buy it, and then if these numbers right here, I'm going to get to that later on, but those are what pixel color the rice is. So if those are the pixels when the mouse is over it, it's going to print out rice is available down here, and then after that it's going to place the mouse on buy rice, left click, and then after it does that it's going to click free delivery, which is the menu that pops up after that, and it's going to add 10 rice to food on hand, which we'll also get to in a little bit. That's pretty much it for the rice. And then obviously if this if these aren't the coordinates, that means rice isn't available. So else, it's going to print rice is not available, and the mouse position is going to go to exit phone and left click so that it gets out of the phone menu. That way it can keep testing to see if there's sushi. The code is pretty much the same thing for nori and fish egg. Obviously slight changes with the pixel colors and obviously what toppings, like it's going to the toppings menu, and then obviously it's not getting rice, so it's pretty much the same thing minus the specific stuff. Same with fish egg. So now food on hand. This is where we're storing the values for the food. So shrimp, rice, nori, fish egg, salmon, and unagi. That's the number of each one that's left currently for you to access. So when these numbers get low, it goes into the phone and purchases more food to replenish the stock. When we go to the sushi types, that has a list of the added up grayscale values of the boxes around each of the types of sushis. So when people order, or like when the food pops up above their heads, the computer will check to see if the numbers here match the box that is above their heads, and if it's a match, then it'll proceed to make this type of sushi. But if it's not a match, then it'll register as just them not wanting anything or nobody being there seated currently. We go down to the class blank. This is the same thing but for the seats. So this will detect if there's anybody sitting in each of the, or in any of the 6 seats. If there is someone, it'll then go check the sushi type that we just went over above and figure out what kind of sushi they want and then start to make it. But again, like the sushi type, if there's if the numbers don't match up, that means that nobody's sitting there, which means it can just keep going and keep scanning to see if there's anybody in the seat following. For the check food function, what this does is if the number of food items in the directory that we created up here, where did it go? Food on hand. So if the number of that gets low or lower than the numbers that are listed in here, it will print that the food is low and needs to be replenished. And depending on what food it is, it will then buy that food. So whatever I equals, it will then buy that kind of food. The start game function, this is what gets us through the main screen. So over here, it starts off by pressing the play button, and eventually it presses all the buttons that go through the main menu until the game actually starts. Fold mat, that happens when, after it selects all the food that goes into the sushi, it clicks fold mat, and that folds it and sends it to the customers. Make food. So if somebody wants a cali roll or whatever kind of sushi they want, I'll just open up this one because it's pretty much the same. It'll print that it's making a cali roll, and then it will go through the food on hand, the list of items that we had up there, the inventory, and subtract one rice, one nori, and one fish egg, because that's what it's using. And then it'll update food on hand. And then the mouse position will go and select rice, nori, and roe, and put that into the mat, and then press fold mat, and that is what makes the sushi. It's the same for the three of them, but with different ingredients. So this one has 2 rice, 1 nori. This one has 2 fish egg, 1 nori, and 1 rice, but all the actual code is the same. So right in here, I just put down, this was for earlier in the code. This is just the coordinates for the phone, the toppings, the rices, all that stuff. Oh, whoops. And get pixel, this is the function that we put into main originally to get the grayscale values of each of the types of food. Down here, this is just where I stored all the grayscale values, so that I knew. I've even put here that this is for when it's grayed out. So these are just all the values that we used in the above functions. Next is clear tables. So this is what's happening. You'll see in the code when the mouse is going across the tables. It is clicking, if there's empty plates, it will collect the empty plates and make room for more people. It starts off with table 1, or seat 1, seat 2, all the way to seat 6. So these 3 functions right here are, so left click is obviously when the program uses a left click somewhere over in the game. Pretty self-explanatory. It starts off with a mouse event with left down, so it's left clicking down, and then left up, and that all happens within 0.1 seconds. These 2 just go along with that, and that's what makes the mouse click. It's the cursor position to the instructed position, keeps the game going, keeps the mouse moving. So get chords, this pretty much is, it's tracking the cursor position, and wherever it is, it's subtracting the x value from xpad, so that, or it's subtracting xpad from the x value, so that it's the coordinates that are in our screen, and then just printing out those 2 coordinates, the x and y coordinates. And then one of our final steps, check bubs. This is what makes the game potentially play itself. So this checks the food, make sure we have enough food, and then it goes through each one of the seats, but all the code is fairly similar except for the specifics. So what this is doing is going through for each seat, it's seeing if it's a blank seat, and then if it's not a blank seat, it's if it's not a blank seat, it's printing that table 1 is occupied and needs whatever sushi type that S1 is, which that's determined by whatever sushi is above their heads. And if it's not, it prints, like the else statement is print sushi is not found, and that just means it's going to move to the next table. And then it prints table 1 is occupied if there's someone there. Clear table, that's what's going to happen after all of this happens. So after they eat the sushi and everything, it's going to go through and clear the table. And then the same thing happens right here for seat 2, and then seat 3, seat 4, seat 5, seat 6. And then down here, our main, this is where we put whatever we want Pycharm to do. So right now we have it starting the game, and then while true, so while any of this is true, check bubs. So it's going to go to this and then run through and check the seats. So I will run it for a little bit and check out how it performs. So you can see it scanning each of the seats to see if somebody's there. Detected that somebody was there, so now it's going to start making sushi. The one problem we do run into with the toppings is that sometimes we won't be able to afford some of the toppings. So when it goes in to buy them, it'll still be grayed out, which is obviously a problem because it's not able to buy the supplies it needs, therefore it can't make the right sushi. But after check food gets back down to a level where it needs to get more toppings, it will go in and then it will work because you have money, like right there. Like I mentioned, sometimes it'll go to buy toppings without having enough money to buy the toppings. So one way to fix that would be to put something into the code that keeps track of the money. So, for example, if we go into make food, so if food is a calorie roll, for example, I believe it's $100 or $80 when you make a calorie roll. So we could add something into the code here that after I did the math, and it takes around 20 seconds for the sushi to get to the person and for the person to eat the sushi. So you could make a statement that said after 20 seconds, add $100 to a bank, so to say, that's in the code that's keeping track of the money, and then edit it so that it wouldn't the program would not try to buy food without having the correct amount of money.